Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the True North CFL podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Leach. You can follow me on Twitter at AKA Jimmy Leach.
I'm Taylor Curry, and you can follow me at Taylor Curry SK on Instagram and Twitter.
And I'm Carter Kennington. You can follow me on Instagram at Carter Kennington.
Well, before we kick the show off, I'd like to thank our loyal listeners for again getting us over 100 views on the last podcast. So, we'd like to keep this thing growing, so please share this with your friends and remember to like and subscribe. So we're going to start this podcast off with the Labor Day Classic, Saskatchewan beating the Bombers 19-17 with a walk-off win. Hey guys, does the score compliment the Bombers or does it embarrass the Riders?
I think it complements the Winnipeg. Keeping it that close with Saskatchewan in the situation that they had against Saskatchewan's situation, I just think that it's good for them. It keeps them motivated for next week or Saturday for sure.
I agree with that 100%. The score definitely complements the Bombers, especially on defense. Besides the last drive, in majority of games, 19 just won't get you a win. So if the Bombers, don't have the worst start to a game I've ever seen, they could have been a different story this week.
I'm going to go the other way here. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I say it embarrasses the Riders because
Oh,
they should have walked all over Winnipeg with a one-dimensional quarterback. They really don't have a passing threat. You just have to stop the run and you stop the Bombers, but the Bombers made it close all the way through, and Saskatchewan ultimately had to have a great fourth quarter drive and a walk-off field goal to win. So I think it embarrasses the Riders a bit because they should have quashed the Winnipeg offense a lot better than they did, and they missed a lot of plays on Strevler where he could have been stopped in the backfield but had long runs instead. So again, I'm gonna say this embarrasses the Riders.
I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, good points.
I think that defense. Hopefully, they come pissed off and they show up a bit more in the Banjo Bowl. We'll have to wait and see.
I understand. I think it's a bit of both. With it complements the Bombers' defense, but it doesn't really look good on the Riders'
Yeah.
defense.
Exactly. All right. So can the Bombers win in Matt Nichols' absence with this unorthodox offense?
I think they're going to find ways to win. They're not going to win every game. It just doesn't seem like they're going to keep it up, but it's tough.
I mean, once they hit their stride in the second quarter, like they knew what they were doing, they looked a lot better. But it's like if you have that bad start again, you can get buried pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's true. I think they can, but that defense has to keep playing great. If they have one
Yeah.
bad game,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Winnipeg just is done, or it's a loss.
Yeah, it's good they have a
No,
bye week after they play Saskatchewan just to get that rest, and then they go to Montreal. So that'll be another really good test for them without Matt Nichols. They'll have Andrew Harris back.
Oh yeah, true.
yeah, I think they should definitely give Augustine more stuff. But yeah, he's doing really well.
Speaking of Augustine, how would you guys evaluate his performance in that game?
I think he played pretty well for his first game, like starting 12 carries, 98 yards. Like he had a 55-yard run against Saskatchewan's defense. So I think he played pretty well, and I'm thinking he's going to have a big week in Winnipeg this week.
Oh, I think he was great. I don't think anybody was expecting him to be as impactful. Averaging 8.2 yards a carry. That's pretty good for your first game. Um, yeah,
No doubt. I said on the last podcast, I've been a fan of his since he was a draft prospect. So I was just happy he was getting a shot and that he wasn't in a timeshare with John Santiago or Nick Densky, really. Um, I thought he played well. And honestly, I look forward to seeing more of him. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, he's not good because he's a backup or whatever," but he's proven them wrong in that there is depth for national running backs in the CFL,
there's
which is only a good thing.
there's a lot of depth. There was the
Yeah.
same thing with Keenan LaFrance when he got his big chance.
Oh yeah, that was a while ago, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Greg Morris too, also against the Riders when John Crockett went out. Morris came in
Yeah,
and had a pretty decent game after that.
I think the running back position is is pretty underestimated when it comes to Canadian running backs.
Yeah, that's very
Absolutely.
true.
I mean, the best running back in the league is Andrew Harris, and he's Canadian, so.
Hmm.
Yep. All right. So do you guys think Strevler improved this week, or did he stay at about the same level as he did against Edmonton?
I think about the same. Like he managed the game well. He kept them in it, but if he would have had a couple more misplays, I think the score could have been a lot bigger.
I mean, yeah, I think he may have improved a little bit, but there's just like it wasn't a huge leap forward, wasn't anything spectacular. It was a little more what people were expecting to see out of Strevler versus last week, but I mean, I'm hoping to see a huge stride, like a big improvement on the next game, but we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. So I found an interesting stat line here about Saskatchewan offensive line here. They allowed 3 sacks before this game during their win streak. They allowed 4 this game. Does Winnipeg have the best defense in the league when they're healthy?
See, there's a lot of good defenses. Like you'd have to say Calgary's up there. Saskatchewan should be in the talks, and them, of course, yeah. Like with Willie Jefferson and Adam Bighill and the defensive backs they have, they're a really good defense themselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Winnipeg and Saskatchewan are the top defenses in my opinion right now. Um, a lot of people forget though that Jackson Jeffcoat was having a better season than Jefferson was before he got hurt. So
It's
if
true.
Oh yeah.
if when he comes back, if he is impact as impactful as he was when he came back from injury last year, then this defense can get a whole lot scarier really quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
True.
I think they're a top 3 defense. I think Saskatchewan might be a little bit ahead of them when they're healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the day because the Sask defense keeps improving, but at the same time, Willie Jefferson is getting hot right now and just tearing it
Yeah.
up. So, yeah, I'd say they're a top 3 defense. I think it's Saskatchewan, Calgary, Winnipeg all have their reasons you could pick them number 1, like Calgary. You got great DBs like Trey Roberson. In the Riders, you got Charleston Hughes. Micah Johnson, even though he's not showing up on the stat line, it's not a coincidence that as soon as he comes back to the lineup, Charleston Hughes has 2 sacks.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a presence.
Exactly. And then Winnipeg, yeah, they're all around pretty good. I think Rose leads the league with interceptions, and then again Willie Jefferson, Adam Bighill. They've got a lot there to be happy about.
Oh, absolutely.
So the following game, Toronto versus Hamilton was certainly interesting. Hamilton came out on top of that one, 38-27. At the near the very start of the game, 2 Hamilton players were ejected in a fight, including an abusive official penalty. Should any Argos players have been thrown out of that game, out during that fight?
Didn't James Wilder knock over one of the refs?
I'm not sure, but they ejected a Hamilton player for abusing an official, so maybe it was
Yeah,
that player.
but I heard a lot of talk that James Wilder and Corey Chamberlain had big smiles on their faces because they didn't get caught with something.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, because I thought there should have been some Argo ejections there, because that was not like a one-way fight. I think there were punches
Not
thrown
at
by
all.
both sides, but
Yeah.
they only ejected the Hamilton
And-
players.
Yeah, that's the weird thing with fights. It's like sometimes it's just completely one-sided on who gets ejected, and it's like that's not how it should be.
Yeah, you saw that against Saskatchewan and Ottawa, where LJ got ejected when it was the Ottawa player who kind of instigated that whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I think it should be. It should be just
Well-
if you instigate, you get tossed.
Yeah.
I like LJ McCray, but he did punch the guy twice in the helmet.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
Fair
but
enough.
He was also the other guy was also trying to break his teammate's leg, so I mean,
Yeah, he was standing up for his guy, but
Yeah,
it
But
wasn't.
it was a bit.
both
far.
of those guys should have been tossed. As far
Oh,
as I'm
100%.
concerned. Yeah. All right. So in their first drive, Hamilton woke up, then they fell back asleep, and then they came back to life to win it in the second half of the game. Can Hamilton's offense be consistent for the season with Dane Evans? Yes or no?
I I think they'll stay at the top of the East, but other than that, no. And I think they just stay at the top of the East because of their record already, like with Jeremiah Mazzoli winning most of the games. But uh, yeah, I mean, I don't see it panning out. They play Calgary and Edmonton next for the next couple weeks. So and then they're in Winnipeg, so it's going to be a tough stretch for them coming up.
Um, I agree. It's hard to tell with Evans, man. Like, he's definitely smashing the expectations that you got for him, but like you're going into that tough schedule now, and I mean, I'll still put Hamilton on top of the East Division, but it's like just with how it's looking right now, I can't see them being very consistent.
Yeah, a lot of that's true. I see it being close between Hamilton and Montreal at the end of the year for that top spot in the West because Montreal looks like a legit
East.
team.
Mhm.
And then yeah, Dane, I have a love-hate relationship with Dane. Like he had a great first series, yeah, and then he was throwing picks like crazy and I was like, "Oh man, he's giving this game away." And then he just turns it on in the second half and goes off and they win. So, it's just
I
I don't
think
know
it
what to
helps.
expect from him. Not even on a game to game basis, on a drive to drive basis. I don't know what to expect from him.
Oh yeah,
I agree, but I also think that it helped that Toronto just doesn't play in the fourth quarter.
yes,
Like
this is
that
that's
helped them
Oh
that's true.
god,
score
yeah.
17 points in the fourth quarter.
Uh,
And Toronto, man, they looked like they were gonna slaughter Hamilton in the first half. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go 4-0 predictions again. But and then they just, I don't know. I guess they left at the second half. They thought the game was over, and then Hamilton came back and killed them.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I wanted to see Toronto win too.
it's just you're right there. You're right there, guys. That's just the story of the season, though, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Like you're
Yep.
just you get so close. Like even before the season started, you had such like high expectations with some of the guys that they were picking up, and then they fall flat. But hold on, they beat Winnipeg. You know that's a huge momentum boost. They haven't won since then.
I think that that loss off of Rouge is probably the basically
Uh,
Toronto season in a play right there. Like
a
they're
Yep.
in it,
hundred
but they
percent.
always seem to just lose it in the fourth.
Like if if the team won't beat Toronto, Toronto will lose the game for the other team.
Exactly. And then I know we just kind of talked about this, but can the Argos D eventually win games in the second half?
Well, I'm hoping they do this week against Ottawa. Jonathan Jennings is starting this week, but I don't see much value in that. So I'm hoping that they can string together an actual win this week.
Yeah, if there was ever a time, it's right now against this Ottawa lineup. You
Yeah.
have to do it now because if you can't, then your season's effectively done. Because if you can't beat Ottawa at this point, who are you going to beat?
Well, and you play Calgary after your bye week, and then you play Saskatchewan, and then BC. So I mean, they could win against BC, but it's not looking good for them.
Yep. No doubt there. I think they'll eventually probably figure it out, but it'll be too little, too late.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They could against Ottawa this week. They do have Jonathan Jennings starting this week though, not Dom Davis, so don't completely write off Ottawa yet. But yeah, I don't know. That D is just costing them right now.
Yeah. I'm writing off Ottawa though.
All right, so the final game of the week, the Battle of Alberta, Part One. Calgary crushed Edmonton, 25-9. Guys, I'm gonna ask the obvious question, and I'm not asking this because I got screwed in fantasy. But what happened to Trevor Harris?
I think he played a good team, and he hasn't had to play that many great teams so far this year. And now that he does, the real Trevor Harris is coming out.
Oh, yeah, I agree to that to a point. You look at his stats, and it's you know he gets sacked twice. It's that's not the worst case. The one interception without throwing a touchdown and less than 250 throwing yards. the only quarterback that can get away with throwing less than 250 yards a game would be either Nichols or Strevler. And I mean, and at least in Nichols' case, he's not throwing a pick a game. Usually not. Just yeah, Trevor Harris isn't looking that good right now.
That's true. The longest throw they had for most of that game was 14 yards. They could not
Ugh.
throw it downfield. Like, yeah, I think he just played a good team. Like we mentioned last week, Edmonton has not beaten a team over 500, and I think they got exposed today against Calgary.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And with Bo back now, how high can Calgary rise in a competitive West Conference right now?
Well, it's just catching up with Saskatchewan and Winnipeg right now. And I mean, if Edmonton pulls out some more wins, the West is just so tough. Like, it could all flip in like 3 weeks' time. It could be all over the place. So
Yeah.
it's really tough to predict.
I mean, if I'm being 100% honest right now, I just can't see, like, unless something big happens in the next few weeks, which, like you said, it could. But right now, I just can't see the top two being anyone else besides Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, whichever order that'll be. I don't know. But I mean, I could for sure see them getting above Edmonton, and I mean, BC is just in the basement, so.
True. Yeah, I think they finish ahead of Edmonton. I think that's a certainty.
Mhm.
I don't know if they can pass Saskatchewan right now. I think they can pass Winnipeg. It depends on Nichols' health. If he's out
Mm.
longer than the 6 games, I
Mm-hmm.
think Calgary passes them. If Nichols comes back in 6, it's going to be a bit closer, though, I think.
I mean, they were saying that it was going to be 4 to 6, so 6 is like the longer end of that injury.
I heard a
Hopefully.
source close to the organization that said Nichols is out for the year. But
Oh, really?
we'll see, yeah.
Wow.
But
That'll
yeah, we'll
spice
see if
things
that's
up.
fervor or if we can trust this source.
That's a True North CFL podcast. Big news alert.
Exactly. Someone pick that up, put it on 3 down so we get some views, All right.
Hashtag big news alert.
Oh yeah, big news alert. Yep, exactly. right.
That's it now.
Is Carey the top running back in Calgary? Considering, prior to this, they're the team that runs the ball the least. I think they're one of the lowest in yards per carry. So is Carey the guy there now, or what do you guys think?
I think so. He seems to be standing out the most for their running backs that they have in their stable. They do have some good running backs, but he just seems to be panning out the most. They had I don't know if Don Jackson was hurt, but even in his game he played, he didn't play well. Terry Williams hasn't been playing the best, so I think he's their best option right now, and he's playing really well, and he's earning it.
I agree. I just like the only really decision that you could make if you wanted to take Carey out of that role is you got to look at the NFL cuts, and I just don't know how much talent is there that could replace Carey. I mean, you can't justify giving it to anybody else at the moment. So
Yeah, that's true. For me, yeah, I'd say it's Carey because I don't know about Don Jackson. He's had some good games and then he's had some really bad games. Romar Morris keeps getting hurt, and I don't think Terry Williams is a nice kind of dual back, but I don't think he's an every down guy. So I think Carey can absolutely be that number one. And I mean, he had a good enough game against one of the best run defenses in the league to kind of go out and prove that, yeah, he can be the number one. So I think he keeps that role.
Yeah, good point.
All right, so Edmonton hasn't scored a touchdown in 2 games. Do they need to? Should they change up the way their offense is? They're one of the worst teams in red zone efficiency as well this year.
I think it's just probably wrong play calls being handed down. Like, I'm not a big fan of Jason Moss as a coach. He doesn't seem like he's a good coach, and Edmonton's record is starting to show that more and more. But yeah, I think they got a lot to work on.
I mean, yeah, I can't really say much besides I agree again. Jason Moss he's not looking great. It never really made me think like good things were coming for Edmonton when they brought Jason Moss in, especially when Mike Riley decided to head for the door. I think now you can definitely see that it's starting to take its toll on the rest of the team.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a Moss guy either. I think psychologically this could have something to do with Trevor Harris too, because Ottawa had this same problem last year.
Oh, so true.
Well,
He's
well,
flaky.
I
Yep.
want to know who's making the play calls. Is it the coach telling the quarterback what to run? Is Trevor Harris making these decisions, or is it the offensive coordinator?
That's a good
Because
question because
it, it
Yeah.
it's
it
followed
might be
Trevor
time to
Harris
pass
from
off the
Ottawa,
reins.
so it's got to be partially his fault. If it's not the plays, maybe it's a mental thing with him. But
Maybe.
I think they could solve a lot of their problems by giving it to C.J. Gable more in the red zone because they don't tend to give
Mm-hmm.
him the ball; they tend to pass.
I mean, CJ Gable, he's known for a reason. Give him the ball, let him do work.
Yep, power back. Let him pound his way down to the end zone, man. Come on.
Yeah, he didn't have the most yards last week, but they only gave him 10 carries. So, yeah,
Yeah.
you got to give him the ball some more.
So now we get into fantasy for this podcast. I think I had a bounce back week, not quite a return to form, because of a certain quarterback that got 8 points. That was 12K. I broke my own principle on that one and taken a quarterback over $10,000, and it screwed me. So that's what I get for not sticking to my principles, guys. And then
better than mine.
yeah, exactly. But for recap notes, you don't really have much. Just stay away from Trevor Harris this week again, and don't pick any Edmonton receivers. There's guys like Ellingston who are like 9K. He only got 5 points. Stay away from guys like that. And then this is where you guys tell me if I miss somebody on value picks and then best pick per position. So for my value picks this week, I have Tavon Smith at just over 3,300, Kenny Lawler 2,500, Greg Morris. I'm gonna put an asterisk on him though because Moses Madu was taking starter reps. So if Madu is starting and not Morris, don't take Greg Morris. And then Wayne Moore of BC with John White and Brandon Rutley being hurt. Guys, am I missing any value picks there?
I think you did pretty good on that. The only one I would add would be Richard Sandani. He's been slowly getting better. I mean, he had one catch last week, but it was for 51 yards. So they're getting him in the offense, and he's put up at least 4.7 points a week. So you never know. He could have a really good week this week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's all of the really good value picks that you're gonna find. I'm just not too 100% sure, at least in Waller, because he seems to only get the ball a couple of times. So, like, you could spend that money on just getting a bit like a bigger name that's just gonna get more passes.
Yeah, that's true.
Good point.
To add to Taylor's pick there, I would say another guy to look at on that Calgary receiving core is Hergy Mayala. He's the same price as Sundani, and I think he got a couple more receptions, so he's a guy that they're working more into the offense, and certainly would be an interesting pick. Now we're gonna go to the best players for position, and again, higher priced players will not be in this, except for one exception at receiver this week. We try to do bang for your buck picks here. So starting off, we have Vernon Adams at $10,000. Again, he's a guy that I'll pick every week. I don't really care about his price. Macbeth at about 9,300, and then Cody Fajardo at 8,000. Are there any other quarterbacks you guys would be interested in picking this week?
I got a risky one, and it would be Mike Riley. He's only 9,100, or basically 9,200, but he does throw for a couple hundred yards a game at least. So I mean, he's not a bad pick, and he's not that much money. But I'm sticking with Cody Fajardo this week myself.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm going to be sticking with Macbeth as well.
Another pro on Mike Riley there is Montreal gives up some of the highest passing yards of any defense in the league. So Mike Riley, you could justify him, but at the same time, That BC offense, I'm staying away from that right now.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's still
really
a little
risky.
too risky. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And then for running backs, I have Kadeem Carey at 5,300, Augustine at 4,500, Greg Morris at 25, again with that asterisk that if Madu's starting, don't take him. And then Wayne Moore, who is probably starting for BC this week at 2,500. Anybody I
Uh,
missed there?
I think you did pretty good on the running backs. I myself have Johnny Augustine and Kareem DeCarry on, or Kadeem Carey, sorry. And I think I'm going to be sticking with them this week because it's pretty hit or miss in Edmonton and Montreal's running backs. We still don't know if it's really going to be split between him and Jeremiah Johnson.
Yeah, I'm still figuring out my fantasy team for this week, but Augustine's definitely one that I've for sure got in there. Just because bang for your buck, if he's able to do even if he doesn't perform as good as last week, if he still does like pretty well, then that's good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say so. Again, yeah, Augustine's a good pick. Carey, I like. Those two other running backs, again, they're risky picks, but just keep an eye on the depth charts, and if Moore is starting, he's a really good pick.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on to the receivers, and the exception to the rule of no 7K wide receivers is Reggie Bangleton this week at about almost $9,900. He's a guy who's been a consistent producer and has really gone off as of late. So I think he's a guy you can pick, especially with the cheaper running backs right now. The You can justify a couple of those expensive receivers, and I think Bangleton is probably the best one you could get right now.
That's a good point. Bagleton has only had 3 games under 10 points this year, so I think he's really good. Yeah, at that price tag, he's worth it for sure. He's just getting
Yeah,
better every week.
I think you just convinced me to take Bagleton right there. Actually, that's looking really good now that you put it like that.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, I've always hated picking expensive receivers because a guy like Greg Ellenston will get you 31 points one week, and then he'll get 3 the next week, and it
Yeah,
screws
Yep.
your entire lineup. But again, since you have so many cheap backs that can get points now, if you have a guy like Bangleton who's, like Taylor said, only gotten under 10 points receiving in 3 games, that's a solid pick to make.
yeah, it's
And
consistent.
yeah. So for the next receiver, I have Javier Posey. Obviously, he's the wide receiver 1 in Montreal with BJ Cunningham out. And he's taken on that role of, Mr. Consistent in that offense. And BC gives up a lot to the boundary. So I think he's a pretty solid pick there if you're looking for another receiver. And then I have Quan Bray. And that's interesting because I think he's matched up against Aaron Grimes. So,
Oh, that could be a good
do you
matchup.
guys pick Posey or Bray this week? Because honestly,
I
I have it tossed up.
I'd be picking Posey. I have him in my lineup. I mean, he's been playing good. He's only got 1 touchdown this year, but he's getting good yards these last couple weeks. He seems to be becoming one of the favorite targets for Vernon Adams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also taking Posey. Not much I can really add to that. He's Mr. Consistent. You know what you're getting, which for receivers, it's rare. You can get the big ticket names that don't do anything, but then Lucky Whitehead's cheap, but he can have those explosive games. Really hard to tell.
I have Bray because I already have 2 expensive players in my lineup. I'm not going to spoil who they are right now, though, because one of them is my lock.
Ooh.
But yeah, I got Quan because he's always been so cheap, but he always produces for Vernon Adams. He always gets his 7 or 8 targets per game, and he usually gets a lot of deep receptions. And Vernon Adams likes to look at him down the field for touchdowns. So even though he may be covered by Aaron Grimes, you might see him catch a couple deep balls, and that will, if he gets over 10 points, I'm walking away laughing.
Yeah, good point.
And then for defense this week, for those of you who are team defense, the only defense I can really see right now that's being worth its price with the Riders at $6,100 is the Argonauts defense at 32. Since they're
Yeah.
playing a lowly Ottawa team, and they do come out firing. In the first half, they had 9 fantasy points against Hamilton last week, and I don't think Ottawa's offense is anywhere near the caliber of Hamilton's. So do you guys say that's a good pick, or is there another defense you guys might consider this week?
Uh, if any defense, maybe I'd be taking Montreal's at 3,600. It like all the defenses seem pretty risky this week. I myself am not putting a defense in. Just I I don't think the games are gonna get you enough points for fantasy. But yeah, if anybody, I'd say Montreal.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not running a defense this week, but if I were running one, I would personally choose the Argos. I just think, cheapest one. You're not really expecting much from any of them. So if you're gonna pick one, pick the cheapest. But I mean, I'm not expecting anything, so I'm just gonna splurge that cash onto getting a couple of better receivers, maybe up the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I do have the Argos defense in my lineup currently, just because defenses can supplement bad performances. Like last week, I did make the mistake of picking Anthony Coombs, and that kind of hurt me a lot in terms of my performance that week. But the
I mean,
Riders D got 10, so that kind of saved me from getting destroyed. It didn't get me to 100 points, but it got me 96. So I think defenses, I think of them that way is to supplement the lineup. And I think I've got the lineup I want. Like, I'm happy with what I have right now, even if I didn't have a defense, but I still have cap room, so I'm gonna pick a cheap defense this week and go with Toronto and just kind of see what they get.
mm,
Yeah, good idea.
yeah, it's not a bad play. It's just really comes down to what do you think is going to be the best option for your lineups.
Oh, sure, yeah. And now we get into the last part of fantasy, our locks. My lock for this week is going to be Vernon Adams. He's good every week for 20 points. So he's a guy I want in my lineup. Unlike a certain other expensive quarterback who got 8 points last week,
Never gonna
Adams
let that die.
is no, I'm not, because again, he cost me from getting over 100 by only getting 8 points. But yeah, he just VA can run, he can throw, and again, BC has a pretty poor secondary, so he's gonna get lots of passing yards, and he's probably gonna get a running touchdown or two. So I'm going with VA.
It's a good pick. I myself this week am going to lock Johnny Augustine with his first game actually starting, having 14.5 fantasy points. It's a good starting ground, and he's at home this week, so I think they're going to use him a lot more.
I understand that. I'm also going with a quarterback who is not, big ticket 8-point man. I'm going with Bethel Thompson, and the reason why I'm thinking that is he's able to drop, I think it was 22 point whatever points against Hamilton's defense. He's only gonna he has to improve when you're playing against Ottawa's defense, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
not,
sound logic. Yeah.
he's very consistent. He's not like a Dane Evans. It's like even though his team isn't translating to wins, at least him in fantasy, he does very well.
Yeah, it's absolutely
It,
true because they throw the ball about 40 times a game, right? So he's a pretty good quarterback in terms of passing yards.
yeah, and in his last 4 games, he hasn't thrown an interception either, so he's doing pretty well, and at least 2 touchdowns a game. So
Yep, his vision is certainly improving as a quarterback.
yeah,
So on to the news from this week. Our first story is that Chris Matthews was cut by Winnipeg, only to sign with the Alouettes a couple days after. What do you guys think of the move?
if they use him, I think it's a good move. They got some weapons there already, so I'm just interested to see what they do with him.
Yeah, they got to utilize someone like Matthews. They wouldn't. I don't think they'd spend that kind of money because he's probably still asking a fair amount. He's not a small name in the league.
True.
Yeah, it's like it was weird though seeing him with the Bombers. It just looked like he didn't fit with the puzzle. Like, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that Montreal it's going to give Matthews a better chance to be him and just do what he can do.
100%. I think that certain guys like that are just yeah. Matthews didn't fit the system. That's what I heard from experts that I've been talking to. They said he just didn't fit the system in Winnipeg, and I think he has a better shot at fitting in Montreal. They can
Yeah,
put him in
yeah,
that spot Gino Lewis has been in, or where Jake Weineke has been, and he can kind of be that red zone receiver.
yeah.
And I mean, it's probably better than Weineke, so he can probably take that spot and be Adams' red zone guy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice.
good point.
I'm excited for him. I mean, I hope that he does well in Montreal.
Oh, I think he will do a bit better than he did in Winnipeg for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so now on to the big news of former CFLers who tried out for the NFL that made rosters or got cut. So, congratulations to these players who made a roster spot or a practice roster spot. Alex Singleton is on the Eagles practice roster. Brandon Zylstra got claimed by the Panthers. Duke Williams is on the practice roster of the Bills. Deontay Spencer is going to be the primary punt returner for the Denver Broncos in their Monday Night Football debut. Congratulations to Sam McGuavin, who made the 53-man roster for Miami, and Ty Long, who won the punter's job for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, for cuts, we have Jordan Williams-Lambert cut from the Bears, Jameer Thurman cut from the Bears, Matthew Betts also cut from the Bears, Kenny Ladler cut from the Giants, Devon Campbell cut by the Jets. And some other mentions that we have, TJ Jones was cut by the Giants, who's a national, obviously. Luke Wilson, a tight end, who's another national, was cut by the Raiders. So we're gonna look at some of these guys who have a good shot at coming back to the CFL and talking about where they should go. First off, we're gonna start. Jordan Williams Lambert is property of Saskatchewan, so that's where he likely stays. With Jameer Thurman being a free agent, though, where do you think he goes in the CFL, you guys?
Maybe Toronto, but I'd say more likely back to Calgary. It's just more familiar for him, so I'd say there's a good bet.
Yeah, I mean, he knows the system. It worked for him last year. They won. They're looking like they're going to be on an uptrend. It certainly looks like a nicer spot than Toronto, at least team wise.
I agree. I think if he has his pick, he goes back to Calgary, but I don't think he'd be the worst fit in Toronto. Uh, Matthew Betts, a top round pick in this year's draft, who was selected by Edmonton. So obviously he goes back there. Does he start opposite side of Kwaku Boateng, or is he going to be backing up Boateng, do you guys think?
I think backing up. I'm not too familiar with his work exactly, but uh, he was released by the Bears. He'll come down here and do what he can do, but I don't think he'll be taking someone's spot right off the bat.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think any of these guys are going to come in here and just be able to take a spot like that. Maybe Williams Lambert, but I even then I doubt it. Yeah, I think if he comes back, he's definitely going to be a backup to start.
100%. I think he'll probably be a rotation guy, sort of like Jonathan Kongbo was for Winnipeg when he got healthy.
Yeah.
And he might end up becoming a starter like Kongbo, but that's a wait and see thing. And then Kenny Ladler, where do you guys think he's gonna go?
Uh, it might be the same with him. I think he could be Edmonton. That's where he's been, but he could really go anywhere. Like if he comes in for a cheap enough price tag, I think he could go anywhere in the East for sure.
Yeah. I mean, with a lot of these guys, it just makes sense for them to be heading back to where they were. But yeah, Ladler definitely has the skill set to help out any team.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he lands probably in Edmonton or Ottawa because Ottawa has the most cap room of any team, so they're
Hmm.
best equipped to sign a lot of these guys who, maybe a team like BC or couldn't do. And I know Calgary, they saved some cap with Bo being out for so long. They could probably afford to bring back a Thurman.
true.
Yeah.
And then last player we have listed is Tavon Campbell. Where do you guys think he goes, being a national corner?
That's a good one. I mean, he's played for Saskatchewan, Calgary, and Montreal before, so I think he'd try maybe Montreal first, would be my guess. They gave him his shot at the NFL, so why not give them a shot? But other than that, maybe Toronto. They're a little weak in their secondary, so he could go there and tighten things up.
Yeah, I was also thinking that he'd be a major help in Toronto. I just think, yeah, that's just how it all goes down with him. It's like been around the league like with the three teams, and I think Toronto just fits.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They have a good backup for him in Boateng, who is he's started at corner this year. He's also been a safety. Another spot I could see, and this is kind of meta, you guys, so hear me out. With Jordan Williams Lambert being property of the Riders, who is he going to really replace on that receiving core? He can't really replace an American because the American talent's been really good. So, where does he go? The logical thing to say would be he would go back to his spot he played last year, which is currently occupied by national Corey Watson. So if you put Williams Lambert in there, you would have to find another spot for Canadian to go. And I'm thinking, why not get Campbell too? And then you have he and Buka on that field side corner. And why not make that your national spot and then just run basically all American receivers? What do you guys think of that?
Ooh, that's
Okay, yeah.
That would be awesome. Wow. I wonder if they'll do
like
that.
that.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that's a very like out there play, but that could definitely work. I was personally thinking, I just thought, those negotiation rights are looking really good probably to some teams. So I wonder if they're going to maybe try and trade those.
I wonder if you
That's
can do that.
Well, I mean,
Oh.
it's happened before, but I don't know if it can like with these specific ones.
Yeah, I know it
He would-
happens. I know it's allowed with negless players, but I'm not sure if it's allowed with guys who are coming back from the NFL that have, teams have a claim to.
No, I think it's just the riders have the first, like they're allowed to talk to him first, and if they both pass on each other, then he's a free agent technically. I think that's how it works.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh,
So
okay,
if the riders decline him, and I think they'd take out Manny Arsenal, but if they didn't want him, yeah, it'd be tough. I think just an East team, they're all weak, like Ottawa, maybe even Hamilton, because they're all they really have for consistency is Brandon Banks. So you never know.
Oh, I don't know about Braylon Addison, man. He just went off.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about
Yeah.
Braylon. Oh, how did I forget about
but-
Braylon?
Yeah, really.
but still, I
Oh,
think-
42
I
fantasy
think
points this week.
Yep. Saved my week. But, yeah, I think if he doesn't end up in Sask, I think Ottawa badly needs a number one wide receiver. And they have the money to go out and get Lambert if they want to. But
Yeah,
I think he ends up in Saskatchewan. And if O'Day is smart, I think if he can bring in Campbell, that would be a really good Riders receiving core. And I mean, it's not like Buka has been bad when he's played at corner. Even Dickens has said, yeah, he surprised me a bit when he came in place of when LJ got taken out of the game, obviously for throwing those punches. So, I mean, it's not like you're hurting too much if you put LJ back on the practice roster, put in, either Campbell or Bruca, and then I think it's safe to say Jordan Williams-Lambert is a huge upgrade from Corey Watson, so another huge weapon on that offense for Cody Fajardo definitely isn't a bad thing.
Yeah,
not at all.
I mean, if that doesn't fall through, I do believe that he will be in Saskatchewan. But if that does fall through, it really does become for him. Are you looking for money, or are you looking for a good chance to get a ring? Because that's the Hamilton versus Ottawa thing.
True.
But like I said, yeah, most likely scenario, he's going back to Saskatchewan.
So for our final segment this week, we are going to be talking about our predictions. So for me, I have Montreal beating BC, Toronto beating Ottawa, Sask beating Winnipeg. Although if I get one wrong this week, it's probably going to be that game. and then I have Calgary besting Edmonton. What are your guys' picks this week?
Well, I'm 5-3 so far, so I'm not doing so hot. But I have Montreal over BC, Toronto over Ottawa, Saskatchewan over Winnipeg, which is a toss-up, and Edmonton taking one back against Calgary, just because they're at home.
Those aren't bad. I forgot to
Yeah.
mention my record. My record is 7-1. The one game I got wrong all this whole time is it was Toronto beating Hamilton, which again Toronto just didn't show up in the second half. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I've been good. And yeah, I think that Sask game is a toss-up too.
Yeah,
For
definitely.
sure. Okay, well, I'm new here, so my prediction's a hot 0-0. And for my picks this week, I've got Montreal, got Toronto taking it. I've got Winnipeg going over Sask, and I think Calgary is able to take both against Edmonton.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of those. I think you've got good reasoning for all of those picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only one that you can really say for sure would be the Montreal one. At least in my opinion, that's the only one that I was thinking like, no brainer.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
good point. Yeah, because Ottawa could really lose the game in the fourth quarter again. Yeah,
Mhm.
Sask and Winnipeg is a toss-up, and it depends what Trevor Harris shows up. So
Yeah.
All right, so that concludes the podcast. Thank you all for listening. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Again, thank you all for listening. This is the True North CFL podcast signing off.